All right, guys. A fixture on this program, you know our man from being one of the best welterweights in the world. And now we wait on bated breath to see who's next. Colby Chaos Covington. What a time to be a welterweight in the UFC, right, my friend?
What a time to be the best welterweight in the UFC and the biggest star in the sport.
All right, man. So let me get right into it because people will want to know, right? We had a big fight in your division this past weekend in London. What was your reaction, man? Leon Edwards submitted by Sean Brady. Wow, it was not something that many people were picking.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't paying attention, to be honest, brother. You know, I was at a big event at Mar-a-Lago all weekend. I was hanging out with my boy Michael Irvin. You know, was in New York City with the Tate brothers, Tristan and Andrew Tate. So, you know, I'm doing high-flying stuff, brother. I'm wheeling and dealing. I'm jet-setting. I'm Rolex wearing. I'm doing big things. I don't got time to pay attention to the jobbers in my division.
Yeah, that's right, man. Your shoes cost more than my house. I hear you got it going on. Let me ask you, though, now that you saw the result, did you think that Sean Brady was going to beat Leon Edwards? And, like, so dominantly?
You know, I kind of thought that after I fought Leon, you know, the motivation wasn't there anymore. I mean, I could tell in the fight, like, I broke my foot immediately, and he did nothing. He didn't try and come after me. He just, you know, tried to point coast to a decision. So I could tell after that fight, he just wasn't hungry anymore. He's made too much money. I made him too much money at that press conference. So, yeah, I just don't think he's motivated anymore, and he should hang him up.
You know what's interesting, man? I don't think I've ever really spoken to you about Sean Brady before. What's your read on this guy? He's now at the top of the division.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've never paid attention to the kid. You know, he's a young guy coming up, but you know, there is no read because I've never watched any of his fights. I honestly know nothing about him, and the fans know nothing about him. So that's about all the read I got on him.
Is he on your radar now, though? Now that he's involved in the title conversation, you know, he's up there in the rankings. Is this the point you sit down and you take a look at him because potentially, you know, you might have your targets on him, right? Because you're always going for that title. You're always going for the top of the division.
You know, he's still not a draw. He still doesn't draw flies to shit. So, you know, I want to do good business for the company. Whatever the biggest and best fights that the company wants, that's what I'm on board with. If he's what's on board, fine. It's a good matchup. He's not going to take me down and submit me. You know, it's going to be a striking fight. And as we saw in the fight with Belal, remember the racist Muhammad, you know, we found out that kid has a glass jaw. So the fact that you got knocked out by Belal, that kind of shows the company everything that you're made of. You're not anything special. So, you know, if the company wants me to end the hype, no problem. It's a pretty easy matchup.
All right, man, I got to get your take on his wrestling. Obviously, he was able to dominate Leon, but like how good do you think is Sean Brady's wrestling? You're one of the best wrestlers in the UFC.
You know, honestly, like I said before, I've never watched any of his fights. Still haven't seen a fight of his, and you know, he doesn't really draw attention. He's not a guy that is bringing any extra eyes to the UFC. So, you know, I don't pay attention to it, but I can tell you right now, no one's going to take me down. That's just a fact. You know, and if I get taken down, I'm getting up instantly. So, you know, I'm not really worried about a wrestler. That's my bread and butter. I'm an NCAA Division I All-American, so no one's going to beat me in the wrestling department.
What do you think should be? Okay, so it's an interesting time in the division. People are asking what's next for Leon Edwards. Do you have any interest in the rematch with Leon Edwards? Because obviously you got injured the first time. You never really got a chance to properly fight him. What do you think should be next for Leon Edwards? And could it be you?
I'm not really worried, Dennis, about what's next for him. I'm worried about what's next for me. You know, like I'm the biggest name in the welterweight division. So, you know, I'm going to get with the UFC. We're going to decide what the biggest and best business we can do. You know, there's a lot of people chirping. You know, you got that little kid from across the pond. You know, Patty's starting to chirp some shit. We know he has trouble making lightweight. So, you know, that's a big fight we can do at welterweight. You know, we got Chandler running his mouth. He wants to come fight for the All-American title. So, you know, I don't know. There's a fight coming to Miami very soon. We'll see what happens after Miami. Everybody knows I'm the king of Miami. This is my city. So you come to my city, I will find you. So a lot of options out there, but we're doing big things, brother. Big things.
Yeah, big business is happening as always at Colby Covington Incorporated. Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that because there is a man called MVP. This is what he said at a London fan Q&A. There are many names out there. I think me and Usman would be a good fighter, but he said, I want to punch Colby in his face for some reason. I don't know why. There are guys out there. I'm hoping for a repeat of a jumping knee to his face. page said, what was your reaction when you saw MVP sort of saying that he wants to punch you in the face, that you're someone that's on his radar, that he was kind of trying to target a fight with you? What was your reaction when he was talking about that?
You know, of course, Dennis, everybody talks about me. No one can keep my name out of their mouth in this division or even in the UFC, because they get woke points to say my name and say some threatening things towards me. So, you know, I don't know. I didn't pay attention to it. I don't pay attention to anything he does. He's another irrelevant bum. You know, he was knocked out unconscious in the B leagues. You know, you've never seen me laying unconscious in the UFC octagon fighting the best fighters in the world for the last decade straight. So, you know, I don't really take that with much there's no truth to that. You know, he's not a good fighter. And, you know, he beat some one-eyed glass-eyed dude. Like, come on, there's no honor in beating a one-eyed guy. The guy, you know, probably shouldn't even be fighting. It's a miracle that guy is even in the UFC, but, you know, no reaction. He's just another bum that's chirping that can easily get his ass whooped as well.
If you guys were to fight, what do you think that, like, how would you see yourself beating MVP? How long do you think the fight would even go?
Yeah, you know, if it's a 5-round fight, I'm taking the life out of him. I'm going to take him down. I'm going to drown him, and I'm going to punch a hole through his face. You know, I don't like it when people, you know, say mean things about me. So, you know, if the fight happens and that's what the UFC wants, then let's do it. But, you know, he's another guy that's just, he's not interesting. He has no charisma. He doesn't draw anything. So, you know, we want to do good business for this company, the company that I love so much. UFC is the greatest organization on God's green earth. So whatever the UFC says that's the best business we're going to do, that's what we're going to look to do.
It's interesting as well. Obviously, there's Ian Gary in the division, but I know he never met your contractual offer and obligations. And then we've got Shafkat floating around in the division. If it was up to you, UFC aside and Paddy and Michael Chandler aside, who would interest you in the welterweight division right now? Who has enough name value that would sort of get you excited to fight if you could choose tomorrow?
Yeah, probably one of the Diaz brothers. They're big names. They're legends of the game. So they draw attention. You know, they sell pay-per-views and they get people excited for fights. So those, you know, that's why I want to fight, Dennis. I want to fight legends. You know, I've been world champion. I fought the best in the world for the last decade. So, you know, and I just did a favor for the UFC showing up on no notice. So, you know, I want to look for big fights, you know, not fights that do nothing for my career, not nobodies, you know, otherwise there's just no point. So, you know, the Diaz brothers would excite me. You know, if Paul Felder keeps running his mouth from the commentary booth, he's going to get slapped as well. That's so self-loathing.
What's going on? What's going on with Paul Felder, man? What's happening?
Dude, he was talking shit about me. He was saying some shit that, oh, he's done this and that and some other shit. Hey, Dennis, I want you to go ask him next time you see him in person. Ask him about the time we were at Joint Base Langley, Eustis, the Army and Air Force Base, and he got tied fucking in handcuffs by the military police to a toilet in his bathroom because he was drunk on the base. Like, that's embarrassing, you self-loathing drunk asshole. He must be drunk half the time he's in that commentary booth for the UFC. Man, I feel bad for the UFC. They need to get some new commentators, and what better, man? I could be the UFC commentator. I don't have any stories like that.
I'd love to see you commentate, dude. So Paul Felder, next time you see him, you might have a word with him.
Oh yeah. We're definitely gonna have a word. You know, like, I've kept that story close to my heart for a long time, and I was never gonna share it. But when you start trying to trash my name in the media and say things about me, what the fuck is a Paul Felder? What the fuck has Paul Felder done? Dennis, I make more money outside the UFC than that guy's made in his whole entire life. Like, the guy's an absolute bum. He's never done anything in the sport. He has no reason to talk shit, especially when he's never been in a main event in his life. The guy's a bum. He's gotten beaten up by everybody. He's literally been a punching bag in the UFC, and he's a self-loathing drunk asshole. So who gets tied to a freaking porcelain toilet on a military base? You're supposed to be there respecting the troops, respecting the military, but no, you're there being a fucking drunk asshole. Ask Paul Felder about that story. That's a true story.
So he was drunk, and then they had to handcuff him to a bathroom?
Yeah, so he drank like a bottle of Jack Daniels to himself. He started talking shit to his manager, Brian Butler. I had to step in like, Paul, stop talking shit to him. Like, you're not going to beat up your manager. He was blacked out and he just lost it. Like, how do you not have more control? You're supposed to show respect to the troops. You're there to boost morale for the military. Here you are trying to fight with your manager. I'm the one that had to intervene and make sure he didn't beat up his manager, Brian Butler, with sucker punch. And then he goes into his hotel room. He starts fucking throwing shit around in his hotel room on a military installation base. And then the military police got called. They had to freaking handcuff him to the toilet.
God, man. All right. Well, we'll have to check with Paul and get his side on it, but that's
Yeah.
pretty crazy, man. And I'm curious to see what happens when you see him next, because he'll probably be around Vegas and he'll probably be doing a card there. So I wonder what's going to happen there. Let me ask you this, man. I know you've been doing the Ultimate Fighter. You guys, I think, got done shooting with Uncle Chael. What did you think when people were proposing that you fight Michael Chiesa as like the big sort of fight for the end of the season? Did that interest you at all? Did you have any interest in that?
No, he's just another irrelevant bum, who got submitted by Kevin Lee. The only reason he has any type of hype is because Kevin Lee made his mom famous, Michael Chiesa's mom. So there's just no interest there. He's a nobody. He's a bum. But you know what, Dennis? He was a great example for the Sonnen system and for Team Sonnen. We were able to tell these fighters that this is the perfect representation of what you don't want to do when you win the Ultimate Fighter. Don't be a Michael Chiesa. Don't become a relevant bum who rides other people's meat for a form of transportation. And I'm talking about him riding DC's meat for transportation to try and get a big fight with me. He's just not a big fight, and he doesn't do any business for the company. So they've never offered me the fight, and I know that's not going to interest the UFC. So I want to do what's in the best interest of the UFC. God bless the UFC. God bless Ari Emanuel, Hunter Campbell, Dana White. Love those guys with everything, every ounce of fiber in my being. So we're going to sit down with them soon, and probably when they come to Miami, we'll figure out what the biggest and best business we can do. But I can tell you it's not an irrelevant bum like Michelle Chiesa.
Let me ask you, man, just quickly. I know that like you fought the best of the best. You mentioned you wanna have a big name fight. You've done a lot in your career. You deserve a big name fight. How do you feel? Because outside of fighting, you make so much money. You got all these businesses going. How many more fights ideally would you like to have? Do you have a number in your head of how many more times you like to step out there in the octagon?
Not. I just take it one fight at a time. Just like in the beginning of my career, I never really was like, hey, I want to do this many fights. It was always just going to be one fight at a time. I was never going to get too ahead of myself, because when you start counting your hit chickens and you're 1 foot out, then, you should just hang them up. There's no reason to do that. So I'm not putting a time limit on my career. I've taken good care of my body, good care of my brain health. So, I could probably fight, 5 to 10 more fights if I wanted to, but it's just about doing good business for the company. So we're going to take it one fight at a time and, do the biggest and best business the company can offer.
Let me ask you this. We spoke about Sean Strickland before. Is that fight still something that you're interested in? You versus Sean Strickland, maybe mixing it up a bit. That could be a big fight.
Oh, absolutely. It's an interesting fight. I like that fight. I don't see any danger out of him. He's not like a power puncher. He's just a cardio kickboxer. He comes forward. So, I know I could put him on his ass and I'll match his pace. So, if that's what the UFC wants, I'd be willing to go up to middleweight. I started my career at middleweight. I was weighing 183, and I started my professional career at 185 because no one would fight me at 170. So, I'm familiarized with 85. To be honest, I've always trained with bigger guys. That was always my thing in the gym is I want to train with bigger guys. So when I get in there, guys at 170 are going to be, cakewalks. So, that is an interesting fight. If that's what the UFC wants and they think that can do good business, then I'd love it.
Dude, I'd love to see it middleweight just because there's some fun matchups there. I know Belal, he said that he wants to move up to middleweight to fight for the belt. What do you think Belal could find success at middleweight?
Nah, no way. I mean, I think Kamsat ragdolls him. DDP ragdolls him. Whitaker would KO him. That's not a good stylistic matchup for him at middleweight. So, I don't think he'd do that good at middleweight.
What's your read on this JDM Belal fight? I'm hearing big things about JDM here. He's training with Alex Volkanovski. He's young. He's hungry. He's like a bit of a dark horse. A lot of people say, Belal's going to win, and obviously Belal brings, a challenging style into that octagon. But who are you siding with? Who do you think's going to win this one?
To be honest, I feel bad for the fans, Dennis. The fans are getting robbed of a high-level title fight. I mean, I don't think that pay-per-view does over 20,000 pay-per-views, so I feel bad for the UFC. These are the guys that you have in a title fight. I mean, I could care less, to be honest. Like, I'm the champ of the division. Anybody that fights me, it's going to be the championship title fight. It's going to be the biggest fight that can be made in the welterweight division. So I don't really pay attention to anything but other than my business.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens, though, because if JDM wins, Islam Makhachev probably enters your division, right? And we've always spoken about... No?
He ain't coming up, bro. He's doing the same thing his daddy Khabib did. Oh yeah, I'm gonna come up and fight for the second belt at 170. They're never gonna do it. They talk and talk and talk, but they'll never actually do it. So he's just taking the same playbook out of Khabib's playbook. Oh, act like you're bigger than life and you're this pound for pound GOAT. He's not actually going to do it. If he wanted to do it, he would have done it already.
All right, guys, I just want to thank Manscaped for making sure Submission Radio is still around and pumping out the content for you. As you know, there's a lot of costs that go into making this program, and Manscaped makes it possible for me to bring the show to you. And what about this? The best grooming tools for men in the world. You go to manscaped.com/submission right now. Get your code word submission, 20% off and free shipping. I want to bring attention to the Manscaped Beard and Balls bundle. It has you covered from cheek to cheek. It's time to weed whack, hedge trim, and make sure the lawn is looking manicured for the season, because nothing says fresh start like a sharp beard, and more importantly, a properly landscaped lawn. Join over 12 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and use the code word submission, 20% off and free shipping right now. The Beard Hedger keeps your beard crisp like a freshly bloomed flower, while the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra clears out the underbush, because confidence grows best with the right tools. You get customizable trimming, the skin-safe technology designed to minimize nicks and irritation. And what about the long-lasting power? Enjoy up to 60 minutes of runtime with the Beard Hedger and 75 minutes with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. It's waterproof design. Both devices feature waterproof design, and you can get it risk-free now. Manscaped offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. Manscaped.com right now. Use the code word submission. Get 20% off and free shipping today. And don't forget to share it on socials with us. I'll be sharing all of your purchases through our Instagram stories, so make sure to tag us at Submission Radio. And thanks for supporting the program. And guys, I also want to talk to you about SAILY. SAILY supports this show as well with its beautiful eSIM, one of the best eSIMs on the market today. Don't line up at the airport having to change out your SIM cards. If you sign up to these local plans that lock you in for a month at a time, are you kidding me? Forget that. SAILY is so simple. Look at this right now. I jump on the app, I choose my location, I choose my plan, and boom, I am ready to go. You can use one SAILY account for all sorts of destinations. Don't create a new account every time you go somewhere else. It's cheap, it's easy. It gives you the amount of data that you need, and you get an ad blocker on there and threat protection, so it protects you from malicious malware as you travel the world. As you connect to all of these different Wi-Fis, be protected with SAILY. It is the best in the business, and I just want to tell you guys right now, you can support the show and yourself by going online and using the code word submission at SAILY, or go to SAILY.com/submission, or click the link in the description below. You get 15% off your first purchase. That's 15% off your first purchase, and you guys can try it right now. Go to SAILY.com/submission now. Support this show. Every single purchase makes it possible for SAILY to keep supporting this program and keeps the show coming out. More importantly, keeps you protected in all that travel. So go to SAILY.com right now /submission. And now back to the program. Speaking of people, if they're going to do it, they would have done it already. Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall. Just quickly, I saw when you spoke to Timbo, friend of the show, you mentioned there's a crazy number that Jon Jones is looking for this fight with Tom Aspinall. What's your feel on this one? Do you think we see this Jon Jones Aspinall fight happen? No, it's just not likely.
No, it's never going to happen. He's asking for unreasonable terms. He's asking for $30 to $50 million. I heard he started at $50 million, and they've gotten to around they've gotten to around 30 to 40. So he's not going to do it. He knows that he's going to get destroyed. He knows Aspinall is going to knock him out. It's not even going to be close. So it's the same thing he did with Ngannou. He never would fight Ngannou. He just worked around him and never wanted to fight him because he was afraid of him. He was afraid of him, just like he's afraid of Aspinall. So he knows Aspinall's in his prime, and Aspinall would starch him. So honestly, I don't see that fight ever happening. And I've been saying this since the beginning. I said this, even before the fight that he had with the fireman, Stipe, that he was never going to fight Aspinall after the Stipe fight.
Hey, as we wrap up, I just want to bring up Robbie Lawler being put in the UFC Hall of Fame. You obviously fought him. You know him well. You guys are, from similar gyms. You've been at American Top Team with him before. From your perspective, man, like, what does Robbie Lawler mean to you? Going up in your career, you would have watched so many Robbie Lawler fights, right? Like, he's had an impact on all of us MMA fans and fighters as well.
There's not a more deserving guy from the Hall of Fame than Robbie Lawler. I mean, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. You know, he's had a big impact on my life. When I first got to Florida, you know, we were training together. He was showing me little tips. I was helping him out with wrestling, and we became good friends. So, you know, I respect Robbie so much. He's the one guy in my career I didn't want to fight. I tried to avoid him at all costs. I didn't want to, but until, you know, I was backed against the wall, and I had to save the company because Tyron Woodley pulled out of that fight on short notice.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
that's the only reason that I had to fight Robbie. You know, I love Robbie. Robbie's such a great guy. We actually got to hang out that weekend. We went to Power Slap together, and we were hanging out the whole time. And then we went to the Fountain Blue, and we were doing a little gambling together. So Robbie has meant so much to me. And honestly, Robbie Lawler is my favorite UFC fight of all time. His fight versus McDonald, the second fight, was the greatest fight I've ever seen, especially live. I watched it live in Las Vegas at MGM Grand Garden Arena, and that was the greatest fight I've ever seen. So Robbie Lawler means a lot to me. I know he means a lot to the welterweight division. He's probably the scariest guy the welterweight division's ever seen, and there's not a guy more deserving for Hall of Fame than Robbie Lawler.
Dude, I loved his reaction when he found out. It was so deserving. Yeah. And I really hope fans can go back and watch some of his fights because the guy's had an incredible career with the Militich camp and Strikeforce and all over the place. All right, as we wrap up, man, so you'll be chatting to the UFC. They're going to be telling you, you know, when they want to do business, maybe Miami. Let me ask you, ideally, what is your timeline? And how many times would you like to fight if things go to plan this year?
Yeah, you know, as long as I get a full training camp, like a good 12-week training camp, it's perfect. You know, I'm going to go, you know, do a training camp with Tim Welch and Sean O'Malley this go round. And I think those guys are going to get me more ready than I've ever been in my career. So I'm excited to get a training camp with them, but a full training camp. So end of summer, early fall, and then maybe end of the year, like winter time. So ideally 2 fights this year would be the perfect scenario, but you know, we got to wait to see what the biggest and best business we can do for the UFC, what type of matchups are out there. So a lot of guys are booked right now, and other fights just don't make sense business-wise for the company. This is a business, so we are trying to make money for the UFC, the greatest organization on earth. So hopefully end of summer, early fall, I'm back in there, and then winter time. And, you know, I think I'll be right in the mix to fight for the title again by early next year.
I still want to see you on that card with Jon Jones. I still want to see the press conference. And I still can't wait. And I can't wait to see what happens, man, with what's next for you, dude. There he is, one of the best in the world and one of my favorite people to speak to, the one and only Colby Covington. Thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate you.
Appreciate you, Dennis.